Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Layback with Betfair. My name is Karl Kaldawi and I'm filling in for Tom Haylock and Nick Foote this week. So some massive shoes to fill, but I'm joined by the Prince of Pakenham, as always, Reece Goodwin. He doesn't miss a show and I love it.
Yeah, no, here again, mate. The warhorse I am, as they speak. But yeah, you got big shoes to fill, mate. Nick Foote, Tommy Haylock, you know they've got pretty big heads, so...
They bring a lot of information
Probably
to
big
the
head,
show.
you got to fill more than big shoes, to be fair. But no, good to be back again. Of course, we got a new man on the block.
A debutant,
yeah.
Rory Flanagan. He's an international expert, but he's going to be helping us out with the form from Sydney and Sandown today, obviously. The big Showdown meeting. But Rory, how are you? Excited for the show?
I should have brought the red subs vest. Off the bench, activated sub. Good to be here. Good to be doing more Betfair content and some UK stuff as well.
He's got an interesting lay-bin, which we're going to get stuck into in a second. But Tom Haylock, as he always does, he wanted to make sure that he gave a bit of a parting gift not being on the show, and he sent us in this video. Let's give it a watch.
G'day guys, just videoing in, wishing you best of luck for Layback with Betfair. Sorry I can't be there, I'm a bit busy at the moment, just working out what to do with my winnings from last week with the champion, that blue horse, Godolphin, James Cummings. Anyway, ran third, due by honour. Got up, thank you very much. You want to see a champion? This is a champion. She'd go anywhere in the world and win. I've just been in Adelaide. I got the jet over here and just bought some local produce from Penfold, so that's good. Wishing you best of luck. You know what you do? You lay the losers, you back the winner last week. It's called a hamburger with a lot. Best of luck, team.
Yes, I wouldn't mind some of that local Adelaide produce, maybe a hamburger, but he did well, Tom. He put his neck on the line and he was laying the champ Anamoe and he got the chocolates. He also backed a buy honour. What did you think about
he
that,
is a hamburger, isn't he? He is the full lot. He's got everything. Good on him. He did. He put his neck on the line and he went against Anamoe and he was right. And look, probably it's easy to say now in hindsight, but facts and figures probably said after Dubai on his first up run, the way he won, he was probably going to be too good for him. But again, you could argue Anamoe's probably not at his best on wet ground, and I would probably argue he clearly wasn't at his best because Mwanga was able to beat him, and he's never been able to sort of beat him on level terms before, so that was interesting.
Roz, you're the international expert. You had a close eye on Dubai Honour. What did you think of the race, and what do you think about Anamoe still potentially going to Royal Ascot?
I made the comment that I'd actually like to see him step back in trip, because if you look at the first few runs he has of a prep at the shorter trips, he's still pretty explosive. And when you go over to Europe and the tracks are a lot stiffer, and a lot of our shorter distance horses have the European horses covered, he's going to get an absolute bath if he tackles anything a mile and beyond in Europe. So if they step him back, even back to sprinting, he'd still have a much better chance than just about every European horse that they could possibly throw at him. He'd be going up against his old mate Artorias, and he's had him covered for a long time now. But I just think with the way they run their races, you're expected to make a long, sustained run for about 600 metres. Every 2,000 metre race that Anamoe's run, there's only one occasion where he's actually been strong at the end of 2,000 metres, and that was when he won the Randwick Guineas or the Rosal Guineas?
Yeah.
Yep. Where he won going away doing cartwheels.
As a 3-year-old, yeah.
Every other race, the Cox Plate, he had advantageous run. He was coming around, and then they still nearly collared him on the line. I'm Thunderstruck and El Bodygon, who, this prep, both of them were going like a busted. And then he didn't hit the line in the Champion Stakes either, and obviously he didn't hit the line as well last time just gone. So they can't possibly tackle 2,000 metres. The mile, maybe, but I'd like to see him sprint.
Yeah, interesting. There's a fair few Aussie horses heading over to Royal Ascot, so definitely looking forward to that festival of racing. Let's get stuck into the lay bin this week, and I'm going to kick it off. Reece is just too positive. He hasn't got
I had one
anything
last week, which was probably about my first one, so
I
was probably just going to back off again this week. I'll try and find one next week.
Your lay bin last week actually segues into mine. We'll get to that in a sec. But Roz, you got a lay bin this week. Talk to us.
Yeah, the gather round.
The gather round.
I just think, what a crap concept. You've got Collingwood are potential flag favourites. You've got St Kilda who are unbeaten, and their fans have crawled out of the cave this year. You're going to get potentially 80,000 if you have that at the G, whereas everyone has to go to Adelaide to watch that. Adelaide fans can pack out the Adelaide Oval once a year for the Showdown. Good luck to them. Let's have the best games at the best stadiums where the most fans are going to show up. They've been harping on about how they want to get attendances, and everything this year is about attendances. So why pack up the whole thing, ship it off to Adelaide, and then try and copy something that the NRL does. The NRL's attendances are going like that, so why would you copy something?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, obviously so many more people like the AFL. I'm a massive fan. I reckon that's peak negativity. I'm keen to see the gather round. I'm keen to see everyone get together in one state. And I reckon, when we start going over to the Northern Territory or, Queensland up there, I reckon it's going to get a lot of excitement. Kicking off in Adelaide, I think what should go into the lay bin, and this is just off the cuff, but some of the prices for accommodation, I heard that there was one apartment that was going up for $23,000. So yeah, they're obviously
good on them if they get it.
Good on them. They're obviously hiking the prices. But look, mine, rush behinds in the AFL. They've got to go. It was a horrible
call last week, wasn't it?
Well,
was it the Sydney Port game?
Well, the thing is I think that should always be a free kick. Why don't they adjudicate rush behinds the same as they do with deliberate out of bounds?
Yeah, that's right. Leave it to the umpire to make the call.
Exactly. Talking about
our great man Nick Foot.
And I'd love to hear his opinion on it.
Correct.
But talk about like a buzzkill. You were saying, the bouncers, when they don't go right, it kind of kills the momentum. How about when the ball's on the line, players are fighting and scrapping, and then someone just knocks it over.
Or runs it through.
And runs it through. It just kills the vibe. So for me, what I want to see is the deliberate the rush behind, free kick every single time, and we'll hopefully see more goals and a little bit more excited. So that's a message to the AFL.
I just want to add to Rory's. I heard on the way here that the Collingwood-St Kilda game isn't on free-to-air TV. So
because what hope have they got to get people going to the game in Adelaide if they don't put it?
I don't know what all the logistics are, but I heard on the way here that it's not even on free-to-air TV. So that's going to take away a lot of viewers as well. So be interested to see how this whole round ends up and if they keep doing it going into the future.
Well, we'll see what happens, but. Enough about AFL. I could speak about AFL all day, but let's get stuck into the racing. Randwick, another day of Group 1 racing. We've got a soft 5 track right now, but there's a bit of rain that's predicted over the next couple of days. It is Sydney, so we're probably going to expect the track to get in a bit worse conditions there. What do you guys think? What have you done the form for, Rory?
Yeah, so for the Frank Packer Plate, be kicking off with the first race?
Well, firstly, I mean, it's just interesting to, obviously, with the Sydney tracks, you've got to do your form before. What grade of track are you doing form for?
If you're going as it is now, soft 5, I think there'll be some rain about. You might get down to a soft 7, and by the time we get into Saturday and there's a bit of dry weather about, hopefully it's back up to a soft 5. I doubt we'll get a good 4. I hope we get a good 4, but I'd say soft 5.
Well, obviously predicted rain over the next couple of days, so I can't see. I can't see the track getting to a good 4. But obviously, it's one of those ones that we'll monitor throughout the day. But the first race we're going to look at is the Group 3 Frank Packer Plate over 2,000 metres. It's a race for the 3-year-olds, and some past winners include Verona, Senautoba, Canane, the Chosen One, who's a New Zealand horse I absolutely love. Do you know Might and Power won the race in 1997 as well?
You've already filled Nick Foot shoes. This is good research.
Come on.
I like this.
I really wanted to get stuck into it straight away. Don't want to take his spot. I like my spot behind the camera. But we'll start with you as well, Reece. What do you think about the Frank Packer Plate?
Yeah, look, it's probably disappointing. Such a small field, only 6 runners. They'd be disappointed with that. But I'm really unsure of Pericles at 2,000.
You love saying Pericles, like Hercules. Pericles.
Pericles, is it? Oh, there
Hercules
you go.
With a Pericles.
That's a good start. Pericles. Either way, I don't really like him at 2,000. He was strung up at a bad time in the Derby, no doubt about that, on wet ground. He probably couldn't pick up much more than what he did. But I'd say you just sort of go back, even when he ran in the Vars at the Valley last season, he sort of loomed like he was going to win and still didn't run past a couple there. So I'm going to go with Osipenko. I think there's only the real 2 main winning chances. I love Nash on Osipenko. I think that's a great combination, those two. Not far away in a Doncaster, and I just think they're the dynamic duo, and I'm not one to take short odds. I could probably leave this race, but I think Osipenko's going to have better than Pericles.
Rory, you're loving Betfair at the moment for this particular race. You're taking on both the favourites.
Yeah, I think both of them are a bit overrated. I think Osipenko, if you go back through his form this prep, didn't get near Arth Cabin in the Eskimo Prince. Then in the Hobartville, we had that rails in run bias day. He had barrier 1, just peeled off the fence. Up you go, see you later. George Ryder, he went backwards. Was 4th in the run and then ended up finishing 7th. And then in the Doncaster, he was a bit in probably the better grounds on the day. So I think for a rock bottom price at like what $2.40, $2.50, it's you can lay him and Pericles, who's a bit of a sort of non-winner, and hope they both get beat and something. Then you've got 2 winning bets on the race instead of having to try and back a winner and you can only have one possible collect. So I'm happy to lean to something more towards Ain't He Grand, who I think needs a rider like Tom Marquand to get the best out of him, and as well as My Truth, who will give them something to chase up on speed.
Yeah, I think My Truth's a really interesting one, and this first race at Randwick is going to tell us a lot about how the track is going to play during the day. I'm keen to spec My Truth. It rises from benchmark 64, but the track is a tick, or the track conditions are a tick. You're going to be on speed. Form is a tick, so yeah, have a look at My Truth, but we'll see how the market plays late on Betfair with that one. Let's head to the Group 3 James HB Car Stakes over 1,400 metres. This is for the 3-year-old fillies under set weights and penalties. Espiota won the race in 2022, and then she obviously has gone on to become a Group 1 winner in the Coolmore. Guys, Rory, I'll kick off with you. What do you think of this race? I reckon it's going to be a cracker.
Magic Time wins, that's it.
That's
I
it.
like it.
No more.
$2 even money, W Doe, Magic Time wins.
Tell us about why.
She's just better than them. I mean, she's better than them, and she's basically giving away at most 2 kilos. So, if it was a bit more of a weight spread and she was, much more up against it, then there would be a case there. But she's done nothing wrong in 3 starts. She absolutely bolted in last time. Opal Ridge was a heavily backed favourite. She went past her like she was standing still. And Paracel's probably a good yardstick as well. I think if you'd be pricing her probably $1.60 in this field. So if you can get $2 on Betfair right now, I'm more than happy to take that.
Yeah, currently $2 on the exchange right now. It's obviously going to change closer to the jump time. Reece, how are you seeing the race?
Yeah, look, me and Mr. Haylock, Hamburger Haylot, that's a good one. Hamburger Haylot. We were with Magic Time both first up in Sydney, and we got a nice little price there. And she was explosive, and she sort of lost her spot not long into the corner when they straightened up, and she was explosive when she got out. Opal Ridge, you could say, got maybe checked at the wrong time, but you couldn't see that they could turn the tables with only a kilo between them. I think they're the only 2 real winning chances at their best. Magic Time, probably even I think our little query was probably how she was going to go on a really messy track first up, gut busting run. But I think if we do get a soft 5, that's probably going to be better for her. She's got a lethal turn of foot. Although she won on the poly her first start at Pakenham, so she's proven right up on top of the ground. I think you'd have to be pretty ballsy to be taking on Magic Time. I think she's pretty smart, and she hasn't come up against a really handy fielder. I think she's probably only going to beat Opal Ridge. So happy to, as Rory said, double me money and run away with it.
Tell us about, just without any notice, Jordan Childs. He's just a super jock, and he's working so hard. And I love that he's getting all these opportunities in. Up in Sydney. Tell us about him as a jock. Yeah,
look, he's a very good rider. As Tom and I joked about it last time, he's bred to be a good rider.
Of course.
But yeah, look, Geordie, I heard him talking on radio the other day, actually. He's sort of had a little bit of an unlucky run there. He had a really bad fall and had to have a big operation on his shoulder. And that sort of it'll set any jockey behind, because you lose your relationships and your form and momentum and whatnot. But he's joined Beg, and they've had a really good time basically since Written By. I think he happened to get on. I think Brad Verwiller might have been riding Written By, and he didn't get his weight, and Geordie was able to get on and ride him through and won the Blue Diamond. So I think since then they've had a really good combination, and they've probably Rory probably know more about sort of how much profit on turnover for those 2 together, but they seem a pretty lethal combination. Passive aggressive, obviously, and then Magic Time. I think they were the main 2 they took to Sydney, and yes, Passive Aggressive got beat in the main grand final, but she did win up there. Magic Time's already won, so they've made a good choice going out there. But he's a good rider, very good fella. He's ridden a couple of times for me. Haven't had a great success with him like Graham has, but no, he's a great rider. And the other thing for him, he's very much in the category of a tall jockey that struggles with his weight and has to stay on top of it all the time. So he's doing a good job, and he deserves every winner he gets. Well,
looking forward to the James HB Car Stakes, but we're going to move over to the Group 3 Hallmark Stakes over 1,200 metres. The honour roll includes Splintex, Trekking, Redzel, Music Magnate, and our boy Malachi. Loved that horse. This is a tough race. Probably one I'm going to be watching the Betfair markets for just closer to the jump time. But Roars, what are you thinking of the race?
I reckon Godolphin's got double handful on this.
And And they have liked this race, obviously, in the past.
You've got.
They've only got 3 of the 10.
Yeah, exactly. You've got Valana, who's a worthy favourite, is pretty much. Well, she's unbeaten. Sorry, he's unbeaten stepping down in trip. So I think 1400 is probably his absolute limit. 1300 was a sort of a sweet spot for him, but earlier on in his career, 1200 he was pretty explosive. So it's good to see him stepping back down in trip. Bacchanalia probably wants it a bit wetter, but he's flying. The knock against Bacchanalia is going up in the weights pretty sharply. And then obviously Gravina, who's chased home Villana a few times and probably wants it to be extremely sloppy because it's had 13 starts on a dry track and not won once. So I think if I was putting them in order, the 3 Godolphin horses, I'd have Villana on top, Bacchanalia next best, and then Gravina third of the 3, and then I don't think anything else can sort of get near them unless Coal Crusher can get across from a wide gate and give them something to seriously chase.
Reece, do you think Villana's the best horse in the race?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Yep. Explosive, fresh too. I think Rory's touched on everything there. I was just sort of going for value, as I do. But yeah, Villana, definitely best horse in the field. Nash seems to get along with him really well too. They just blend well. I mean, he was unlucky. Not unlucky, but he just didn't have a good run at all in the Golden Eagle last year, and he was now 4.5 lengths behind I Wish I Win, which obviously looks great form. I'm going to go with Key Largo right down the bottom. Now, this horse has been aggressively paced basically all his life, and he's probably been stiff not to win more races than what he has. Probably won it no worse than a 5, but he was unlucky behind Remark first up. Should have gone very close. He was only just in the passive-aggressive race, but that was on the softer ground. And then again, had no luck last start in the Group 1 behind Maria Mia. So I just thought at 17s, roughly around that, from a low enough draw, if he gets a nice suck run and finally gets some clear air, I think he could be a 1x3 play in a pretty open field, I'd say, behind Villana.
Well, you're getting almost $20 on the Betfair exchange for Key Largo. So
1x3, an old Nick Foot special.
Yeah, we love a 1x3. Obviously, the place betting in back to school last week. Like the thoughts, guys. Let's move over to the Group 3 JRA Plate. This is a race I've always been a fan on. Won by Polly Gray last year, and we know that she's an absolute mudlark. Yep. We'll start with you, Rory. What are your thoughts on the JRA Plate?
So depending on the track condition is whether or not you touch Protagonist. It's had 12 starts on rain-affected grounds for 1 win and 1 placing. So all of his form is on a good deck. If it's anything worse than a soft 5, I think he'll struggle. But if it's anything like a soft 5 or better, then he should start $3.
So what are the main ticks for Protagonist?
The fact that he's already done it once out here on a nice enough surface.
First up too.
Yeah, first up too. It's back to 2,000 metres. The Doncaster was just a complete waste of time. Just a complete waste of time. He didn't handle the bog track either. Down in trip doesn't suit these Europeans when they've already started at 2,000. And Haggis's record in group races out here is just absurd. So I think if we're getting soft 5, he's a bet. Anything worse than that, then just watch for the big drift. What
do you reckon, Reece? I reckon you're going to find some value in this race. I get the feeling.
You're wrong, sorry. I'm staying out. I'm actually staying out because it's just a lot of these horses, they're sort of, I don't know, I just can't get a handle on a lot of these Sydney stayers. And of course, as Rory's just outlined, Protagonist at his best. If he gets the right deck, he's probably going to be too good for some of these. They've been going around a long time. A couple of them I just want to probably ask Rory about, just probably because I haven't seen enough of them late. Serpentine, interesting horse.
Yeah.
Has the ability, had second stable now.
Serpentine will go down as one of the biggest farces in the history of the UK, or the Epsom Derby in the UK.
Wow.
It ran along at 12.5 second sectionals with a 20-length lead in the Derby. And no jockey decided to catch up until there was a furlong to go. No
time to make up the ground.
Exactly. So it just was not even that good. It was put in the race as a pacemaker. It was on the stable's 6th choice jockey.
Did you tweet about that recently?
I've tweeted about it plenty of times.
I remember because I just remember seeing the video. I was like, that did happen.
Yeah. So he's been. So Lloyd, I was like, we can, get this horse in a Melbourne Cup, and he's just not done anything since because he's just not that good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just off that one run.
Exactly. So he's got absolutely none. His price is spot on. It was like 80 to 1 or something like that. The one actual European in the race is Annabelle Neesham's picked up off the body stable is Bois d'Argent in the yellow silks.
Well said.
Yeah.
Better than I was going to say. I was going to bring it up, but I didn't want to. I was trying to pronounce it.
I was like, that's a segue. He didn't enjoy barrier 1 at Moonee Valley, and that's my concern here. Anytime he's sort of done well, he's been ridden outside horses. He was in that Star of India race in the spring, I think it was on Golden Eagle Day. He is just probably the most consistent horse in this field. The only time he hasn't run a place was last start. And I think with 54 kilos at his sort of ability where he's handled every track surface but has a particular liking for just the right kind of soft ground in between good, in
just
between heavy, just the right amount of cut in the ground. I think he is a 1x3 play.
I'm gonna take that advice. There's my tip. There's my value.
We like that one.
He's talked me into it.
I just need to follow in the Magic Man, João Moreira. He's on quality time. Looks like a nice bet at big odds, so I'm keen to spec that. Obviously, the horse is third up. It's Chris Waller, ready to go. Have you had a look at quality time?
Yeah, I mean, he's proved his critics wrong because before he came out here this season, I think in all his visits to Australia, he'd had one win on a rain-affected track out of like 35 rides or something like that, which was just absurd. Like he even got wing speed.
Not many to do that.
Not many.
And so yeah, so he's been absolutely flying this time around, and it's good to see jockeys, good quality jockeys, actually spend an extended period of time here,
Correct.
like Tom Mark 1, like Moreira, and actually give it a red hot crack for a period of time instead of FIFO, fly in, fly out, Ryan Moore type stuff.
There's a few rules around that as well, which are a bit dubious. But anyway, we'll kick on. We can talk about that forever. Time for the first of the Group 1s, the Group 1 Champagne Stakes. It's the Group 1 for the 2-year-olds, run over 1,600 metres. I've got so many stats, I don't even know where to start. But from 14 of the 8 runners have won or placed at their last start. Barriers between 1 of 6 have had 10 winners in recent times. Obviously, the Group 1 size produce is the key lead-up race with 9 of the past 11 winners coming out of that race. Let's go to Rory first. What are your thoughts on the Group 1 Champagne Stakes?
Is it Champagne Stakes or is it the China Horse Club Stakes?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, five horses for the China Horse Club for what, 3 different trainers or?
They're having a fair crack.
Yeah.
They might even throw me one day.
I wonder what price that'd fetch at the sales. I can't get near Militarize if it's anything like it's shaping out to be with a soft 5 track or a soft 6 track. I think he needs it absolutely bottomless to be at his best, and I think at his best he would win this, but he's just not going to get the conditions that he wants. You're talking about a horse that ran last in a trial on a good surface and then nearly ran last in a Golden Slipper on a good surface, and just isn't effective without a genuine sloppy deck. So I think if he's getting his conditions, then he's a winning chance. But for that reason, I just couldn't have him. I'd much rather lean towards something like Tom Kitten at double figures, who just exploded at the end of the mile last time. He's already proven at the trip, whereas most of these, are tackling it for the first time. You don't know if they're going to get it. It's still 2-year-olds. And Nash, strong rider, plenty of success for Godolphin. I think he's a much better bet when you can get a better price for Tom Kitten to place than you were getting for Militarize to win the race.
Of the current trainers at the moment, Peter Snowden has the most wins in this race with 5, and he's obviously got Don Corleone lining up. Reece, what do you think of him? What do you think of the race?
Yeah, well, it's as we just spoke about, it should be the China Horse Club race, but they're trying to make stallions out of their prospects, and this is a perfect opportunity for them. Either one of these 5 could possibly win it. I mean, yes, some of them might not have the best form, but they just happen to have a good grasp on this race, and particularly with Paul and Peter. So you can see why, obviously, Don Corleone's well in the market. I'm well against Militarize as well, for the reasons that Rory's outlined, and I'm going to be with Tom Kitten too. I think he's well over the odds. It really hit the nail on the head with he's ran at a mile. That's a massive tick for a 2-year-old to already have won at a mile when a lot of these are having their first go. James McDonald obviously rides Don Corleone, and some people might think, well, why is he riding Cummings' horse? But he's never ridden Tom Kitten, and Nash has been on aboard of him 3 of his 4 starts and has a really good affiliation with him. So I just think you'd be mad to touch militarise, and I think Tom Kitten 1 by 3 is a very smart way to go about it.
Castle Vecchio has won this race in previous years, and he went on to win. Not win, but place in a Cox Plate. Do you see any of these horses potentially going on and running in a Cox Plate and potentially winning?
No.
Well, if they end up like that horse, what was it? The Mission?
Yeah.
Then absolutely not.
No. None of these.
This could be one of those. We'll steal the Group 1, and then he's got a injury off to stud.
Yeah.
Off to stud, all right. Well,
whatever wins this, I probably wouldn't be sending a mare to it either.
Okay. the guys have strong thoughts there. Well, we'll leave that one there and move over to a race I'm very much looking forward to, the Group 1 All-Age Stakes. It's over 1,400 metres. Previous winners, Colding, who is in the race again at massive odds. Tafani, Pirata, Trapeze Artist is the record holder for this race. And obviously last year's winner, Cascadian, who's stepping back down from the Oz Cup 2,000 metres. Roars, we've got a lot to talk about in this race, and there's obviously the Japanese horse as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a different kind of 1,400 metres to what Zaaki usually tackles, because in the past he's taking on these 2,000 metre type horses that everyone's building in towards their prep, and he's got a bit of sharpness over them in terms of a turn of foot, whereas he's taking on like Everest types here. So I wonder if he's potentially unders, because he wasn't trialling well enough earlier on this prep, so they put him away for a little bit and gave him a bit of extra time. So he could be an interesting lay prospect. But yeah, Ho-Oh Amazon, the Japanese horse, they brought him out here with purely one thing in mind, and that was soft track. So if he gets a soft track, and at $21, $23, whatever he is on Betfair now, I think he's actually worth a nibble, because the way he's run his races when there's been cut, he's raced in Japan 3 times with cut in the ground, bolted in his maiden, bolted in a 1,400 metre race on a soft track, and bolted in on a almost, like, it was a good track that got downgraded after, so it was still essentially a soft track. And so he's basically unbeaten on a soft surface, and that's why they brought him out here. His form, he's run behind the likes of Serafos, Gran Alegria, Songline, all these good horses that have been taken to the Middle East for dry tracks. So if he's getting his conditions, a solid Group 2 Japanese type, I think can be super competitive over here. They can win at all distances. They're going to be rock hard fit. You don't need to worry about them having a prep run. And I think at that price, I'd rather not miss out.
Yeah, love it. And we haven't said the words Giga Kick yet, Reece. What are your thoughts?
I'm not against Giga Kick, but I'm going to go similar to what I did in the 2-year-old Group 1. He's having his first go 1,400. I still think he does a couple of things wrong in the run. They'd probably want to. They will be hoping they go at a good clip. I'm not sure if there's a massive amount of speed. Obviously, there's some good quality horses here. They'll go at a good tempo, but I want to see him at 1,400 first, because I ride him cold from the gate. I'm definitely with Anamoe. Interesting that James obviously trialled Anamoe and Zaaki same morning. They were meant to be on the grass, but they got that much rain that they went to the poly. He trialled them both and he stuck with Zaaki, which is probably, I'd imagine, more a long-term plan than what was right to win over 1,400. As Rory outlined, Zaki's got to go against a couple here that have been sort of in the Everest. I'm not sure he's that sharp. I don't think his trial was good, but it wasn't anything outstanding to say that he's back to win first up 1,400 against some of these. So Anamoe at that price, I thought, great price. He beat the All-Star Mile winner and the Doncaster winner, Mr. Brightside. Exact. Sorry, thanks for that. Mr. Brightside. So he's got some great form. They freshened him. The mile was a stretch too far the way the race was run at Flemington. He had EPIH after that. He's had a bit of gap between runs. He's had the trial Sydney Way. He worked good through the line. He's got a nice draw here. If he can just be midfield, get on the back of the right horses, there's no doubt that he's going to be somewhere thereabouts. I was just happy to be with him at a more each-way price than Giga Kick first time 1,400.
I just worry with Anamoe is that Mick Price has always harped on about soft track with him, and that's why he's been reluctant to take him to Sydney for a lot of the races. races, and anytime he's struck a genuine soft surface, he's done nothing. His one win on soft was a soft 5 that was almost a good 4.
I would argue, just marginally I would argue, and I hope he gets very similar conditions, the Everest last year, which obviously Giga Kick did win. That was when he was being tardy away from the gates. He got run off his feet, and he was actually still really good through the lines. I think he was beaten 1.5 or 1.6 or something. That was a soft 5. So yes, if it got worse than a 5, I'd certainly be worried. But I'm certainly hoping with a nice drying day, what they're predicting, I think that would suit him. And I just think, obviously there wasn't a lot between them in the Everest last year, and now we're talking 1,400. I think I'd rather take $8 than $3.
I'm keen to get your thoughts from a trainer's perspective about, Cascadian, but any horse that steps back. Obviously, Cascadian's going from 2,000 metres back to 1,400 metres. As a trainer, do you see that as a positive, or do you sometimes, or how do you see it?
We want to see it as a positive. We try and make it a positive as much as possible. It's a massive ask. If he can somehow pull it off, James, it's
just
massive.
Just give some insight as to why it's a massive ask for the horse.
Well, just the horse is just having them that fresh after only 3 weeks or something like that since he won in Melbourne. He's had the trip back, which he's obviously done a fair few times, so that probably hasn't taken a lot out of him. But it is something. You still got to bear in mind that. But just to have a horse trained up to win at 2,000 metres and then 3 weeks later ask it to come back a few furlongs to 1,400 against good horses, it's just the stats would back up that it just generally doesn't work that well. And as much as James has probably ticked all the boxes back home and he's very happy with the horse, I would find that it would be a very tough ask. But look, I'm happy to back James in. He knows what he's doing and he could well and truly pull it off. But it would certainly be somewhat of a worry. If it was 4 or 5 weeks and he'd had a little soft trial in between, I'd probably be, on his side and back him in a bit more, and he might be a little bit more of a betting proposition. But I think this is a pretty tough ask.
Well, you're getting a bit of a price at least to have a look. I'm going to back in James Cummings. I'm going to wait till the day and not bet early. But look, another thing that we haven't spoken about, and another one I'll send to you, is Willow's back aboard Giga Kick, and obviously that's massive news. He had that injury, that fall a few weeks ago, but he's back on Giga Kick. Just for us, give me a little bit of insight. What's Willow like? You're happy to have him back. He'd certainly be happy to be back.
He's the ultimate professional, no doubt about him. Couldn't even say that he has to come back and work into it a little bit, because his fitness levels, he's just a freak at it. He'll be primed. He'll be very hungry because he's missed out on Giga Kick. He's missed out on Mr. Brightside in the All-Star Mile and the Doncaster. So he's going to be a little bit upset about that. There's probably 2 Group 1, the All-Star's not a Group 1, but 1 Group 1 and a very big prize money race. So he's going to be hungry, and no doubt he would have been up in Sydney. He would have ridden the horse. He would have galloped him. He would have had another feel of him, and I would back in that C. Williams is there riding at his best and probably get the job done, no doubt about it. So he's a fantastic bloke, ultimate professional. He's really good for the sport, what he does and how he speaks. So it's good to have him back in the saddle.
Well said, Reece. And obviously 5 of the last 7 winners have come out of the TJ, so I'm going to be looking at Giga Kick as well as a massive option to win, and I don't think the 1,400 is going to be a problem with him. All right, let's head back to school, and I'm so happy that we've got the international expert Rory Flanagan here, because it's perfect timing. We got the Grand National on Saturday night, and you're going to talk to us about betting in play on UK racing. First off, how do you do it? How do you trade, and is it any different?
Well, Betfair, obviously, because it's the only place you can do it. The thing I like most is that with UK racing, the tracks are just so different and so unique. And after you've been watching it for a while, you pick up patterns and you pick up tidbits of information. You know what sort of tends to happen at certain tracks. Newcastle synthetic, outside gates win twice as many times as inside gates. Horses that tend to sweep down the stand side rail. Newmarket, after they've watered the track, fast on the rail. Places that are really breezy and windy, the leaders always fall in a hole, so you can lay the leader in a run. Whereas people just watching it on a screen, they see the leader in front, the price shortens in the run, you know that they're going to fall into a hole because of the wind. You pick up on things like that, and that allows you to have good strategies that you can essentially just treat it like a stock exchange. You're buying something at a cheap price and selling it at a higher price, and that's purely the aim of it, is to go into these races, put a few bets on, and at first just get in the process of not losing, just at least being able to chop out and say I've broken even here at the very least, and then once you sort of get a bit better at it, start winning on races and having 3 or 4 horses, 3 or 4 different results that could be the difference between good profit and then massive profit.
You're obviously looking at rail bias and track bias. Can you give an example of how those 2 points play into your strategy when you're betting in play? So say we go in play, what are your thoughts on how you go about it in terms of those 2 things, rail bias and track bias? So
I mean, there's no speed maps in the UK, so you've essentially got to have a knowledge of who's going to lead and who's going to do what, how the race is going to play out. Because most of the tracks in the UK have massively long straights. It's more of a test of stamina than just a turn of foot. So stronger riders come to the fore. Wind plays more of a factor. Weight plays more of a factor because these horses are under more duress for a longer period of time. Whereas in Australia, we come around the corner, it's all cuddled up, off you go. So, and that's partly why I said Anamoe would be suited to a shorter distance where he can be held onto a lot longer. But for example, somewhere like Royal Ascot, where you've got it's a hilly track, it's got an uphill finish, and you've got a sort of like a slant on some of the sides near the rails. So you can immediately see the draw in these big field handicaps that have got like 30 horses, and you can just pick based on the conditions. There's one side that's going to be much more likely to have an effect. So you can immediately just wipe out half the field, and then you can price your market on that side of the field that's got no chance of winning. So suddenly you're betting into a market that's not 100% or 120%. You're betting into a market that's 60%, and you can have a handful of horses in there that could possibly win, and you know that the other side of the track can't possibly win. So essentially you're betting into a much more chance of success than if you're going across the whole field. So the way I look at it is trying to find things that can't possibly win first, can't possibly have an impact, and then ruling them out, putting them aside, and then finding how's this horse going to run. This horse likes to get back. This horse is going to be up on speed, but can't sustain that gallop. He's first up. He's carrying a big weight. He's got apprentice jockey on. He's going to go too hard in front. I can back him at the price he is now, and then when he's shorter in the run, then I can lay him, and just have all these different bets ready to go and ready to keep in play, or just click the button on Bet Angel or something like that when the race hits the go button.
Amazing insights, and that's why you're one of the best international experts going around.
I'm picturing Rory sitting in his room with about 18 TV screens, cutting all that up.
You can even just do it on 2 phones. That's why I do it.
Quick one. Do you find there's some horses for courses over there?
110%.
Yeah, there's obviously horses that get around. Obviously they're up and down hill, but then there's some tight courses and some wider courses.
Yeah, so you look at places like Chester. Chester's like the UK equivalent of the Moonee Valley. Epsom as well, it comes downhill like that and then turns into and then goes like that. So some horses just flat out don't handle certain tracks. That's why you see horses, some 3-year-olds will have a fantastic career, and then you look at their run in the Epsom Derby and they've run 10th.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what happened there? And it's just because they purely didn't handle such a tight corner. When Irish and English and overseas trainers bring their horses out to the Everest, they've run last nearly every time because they can't corner the way our horses can, because our horses are so used to it. They just want to be gun barrel straight, and that's their comfort zone. Yeah. Yeah. They start to get this fear of slipping or something like that coming around the turn. Like when 10 Sovereigns, in the UK, he might have thrashed our horses, but you bring him out here and he just wobbled on the corner and just stopped. It's the same with Blue Point, one of the best sprinters the UK's ever produced. Took him to Hong Kong, wobbled around the corner, didn't fire a shot, took him back to the UK, won 2 Group 1s in a week.
So there's a little old race called the Grand National, like we said, on Saturday night. You heard of that one, Reece?
Yeah, I had heard of it. and I heard someone talking about it this morning saying there was 50 horses in it, which is amazing. Well, 50, as Rory said earlier, there's 50 acceptances and they'll end up with 40-something, so that's amazing. It's going to be a great spectacle to watch, that's for sure. Just
quickly, Roars, have you got a quick preview for that race? Obviously the final fields aren't out yet, but...
something in the 30s or something.
Any horses you want to keep an eye on?
There is one horse that I've actually used as a trading strategy quite often, because he likes to get out the back a bit and then finish off his races strongly. It's Gaillard du Mesnil, depending on your French.
I'll take that.
Yeah. It's trained by Willie Mullins. He's in those yellow and black silks. I think he's got a good chance. He's at a nice weight because the Grand National is obviously a handicap. It's like the UK equivalent of the Melbourne Cup. It's the one where, you know, your great aunt Joyce texts you and says, "What have you got tips for us, love?" You haven't spoken to her for 3 years, but she wants to know what you're backing in the Grand National. It's that type of Melbourne Cup type race where it's a massive field. People have office sweeps and things like that. So it's a massive deal over there. Not quite to the extent where we have a public holiday for Melbourne Cup because it's on a weekend, but it's a war of attrition. You got steep fences and hedges and things at Aintree, and if you saw the Irish National on the weekend, there was 29 horses in that. 23 of them didn't finish, and they were just like, "Yep, had enough, pack it," and they just pulled the horse up.
Just a quick one back on the in-play betting in UK. Where do you watch your races? Where do you stream it from? Because like I've been on my phone sometimes and in play, and the race is finished, and I'm still watching them at the 400.
Yeah, so I find
what's going on here?
I find the best like stream is if like I just use it because I've got a UK passport as well.
Okay,
I just use the Racing TV website because that's the least delay in feed. Yeah. Whereas Tab is like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're watching it on Tab,
I found that out the hard way.
Yeah. Like sometimes, like one year I tweeted about a race and there was still 400 metres to go. And people had Twitter notifications on and they saw me like, "Oh, you've gone the early crow." I'm like, "No, the race is over."
I'm a genius.
Well, let's move on here. But Joyce, if you're listening, great auntie Joyce, slide into Rory's DMs and he'll give you
$15.
give you a couple of tips. All right, let's head over to Sandown. And as I just get the track conditions up, we're going to get so much rain. We're currently a heavy 8. We're Sandown on the lakeside track. We're going to get showers on the day. It's going to be torrential maybe at stages. The rail's out 7 metres for the entire circuit. Like I said, the forecast looks dicey. What have you guys had a look at in terms of the track? What have you?
Well, the track update come out this morning. It was a heavy 8 yesterday, and they got rain yesterday morning throughout the night, and it's already back up to a 7. I'm wrapped because I've got one in the first who wants it a bit firmer, and I do see the rain coming, but I'm hoping by 12:35 I'm going to be out of the way and back home before it starts raining. So you definitely got to see how it plays out throughout the day. I'm guessing it'll get to a 6 race day. And then you just got to see when that rain does come, but it could certainly get pretty messy by the end of the day.
Lakeside, are we looking at on speed, leader?
Yeah, you have to. And you just have to wonder. Yeah, you'd just have to wonder if it's going to play leaderish or not, and those inside lanes towards the fence, if they're advantageous like they usually are.
Well, let's go to the Vobis Gold Dash over 1,200 metres. Reece, what are you thinking?
Sorry, I'm behind the 8 ball here.
That's fine, mate. Well, I mean, we can kick off with Rory.
Yeah, that's right. He has got a handle on the race.
Which one does Moods want to win?
Yeah.
Does Moods want, the stablemate the bigger price, or does he want the shorter price that doesn't really fire a shot if she hasn't got an easy lead? She Dances, I think, is a bit suspect if she can't get across from gate 13 and get the lead. If you look at all of her form, she's won 4 races and she was always leading in those 4 races. And when she hasn't led, she hasn't run a place in her other 4 starts.
So She Dances they'll be pretty aggressive. They'll know they'll have to come across from there, so they'll be aggressive. It'll just come down to how much work she does have to do. Her form's the best form, but she has been up for quite some time. She's had freshens in between, but she hasn't been out of the stable too long. Her best form's certainly good enough to win. Michi gets along well there. Nanagai, if you can forgive the Flemington run, which you basically have to, she was beaten 28. There was a clear issue there. She's been back to the jump outs, trialled well enough. She's certainly got the ability, but then also has the wide draw to offset. But one's going to go forward, put a bit of pressure in, one's going to be back off them. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not keen to get right into the race.
Moods 1-2.
I'm not keen to get right into the race because it's a pretty open race, but if I was going to have a spec, it'd be Highland Girl down the bottom. She's going to be back on the run, but she was really good first up behind a horse called Sweetened, who is a Hayes horse that Ollie went out to Sale to ride on a Sunday. I think if Sweetened was in this, she'd be well in the market. Highland Girl, first up, come back well this prep. Second up now, it's going to be interesting to see how the track plays, but I think if she can be somewhere near Nanagai on the run, they might be able to make their runs together.
Who's riding Highland Girl again?
Dean Yendall.
Obviously needs a good front running jockey, and from barrier 10, if she can hit the front, then obviously
Dino won't miss her.
He never does Dino?
He needs to pay for a family, so he'll be doing his best.
Absolutely love Dean Yendall. Let's go over to the Galilee final over 2,400 metres. Rory.
Delete this race. Just
delete it.
Long tail, very thin.
It's ordinary.
Is that three, mate?
So Betfair coming into consideration here for you, Roz. You're keen to lay a couple.
I just put lay all at $2 and just hope they all touch $2. all loom up and all stop because they're all slow. You got a bunch of dry trackers in there who are heavily in the market, and then a bunch of wet trackers who are going like a busted. It's a lottery as far as I'm concerned. Northern Barrage or Barrage, depending on where you're from, struck me as if only wants a dry track, and it's what, $2.20 favourite, and is, 7 lengths beaten when last time was a wet track on the Sandown hillside in a relatively small field. So, not sure the step up and trip is going to suit on a wet track. So, I could lay that. I could lay Midnight Glow. I could lay Night Sun. I could lay Kentucky Nick. It's just
so best to have a Betfair.
Should have been in the lay bin.
It's just Oh, it nearly was. I was like, why am I even bothering?
Well,
with
Reece,
this race?
you can make a case for.
This is my best. This is my best. Northern Barrage. I agree that the soft track might be an issue, but this horse will be rock hard fit, no doubt about it.
What was that horse in those Western Bulldog Silks?
Price Bloodstock, one of those.
And it ran at Bendigo and it didn't fire a shot.
Payne?
Might have been Paddy Payne. Didn't fire a shot, and all of its form was just wet track, and then went to Bendigo, had a run on a dry track, and then it came out last week and bolted in on a soft track again. And it's just like, I feel like that's the same type of horse for me.
Yep. Anyway, Northern Barrage for me, beaten majority of these. So there's 10 in it, 2 of them are maidens. There's only one horse that's won at this trip before. It's Highland Hill, and you have to see he's going to turn around 8 lengths or 7 lengths on Northern Barrage, and before that he was beaten at a 58 at Kyneton where I had a runner in it, and that horse is no longer in my stable. He might not handle the wet ground, but I think he can not handle the wet ground and still beat these, because these are an orderly bunch, unfortunately. I'd probably love to have one in it, to be fair. I shouldn't be being too harsh. But no, Northern Barrage for me. Mick D, good strong rider. He's crying out for a trip. Maybe not on the soft track, but he's crying out for this trip. Mick's done all the background work on him, all the inside cells and everything that he does with him. And he says this horse stays all day, so I'm going to go with him.
It sounds like we need to move on from the Galley
race,
final.
and we've still got maidens in it.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from it. We've got the Vobis, Sires, Guineas, and Rory, I'm going to kick off with you. We're over 1,600 metres. Talk to us about this race.
Yeah, I like Bel Air quite a lot in this, actually. I think it's a good price to take. Comes through that Pakenham Future Stars series. Gringotts franked that form last week, obviously. I feel like it should have won at the Gold Coast in the Magic Millions maiden as well.
It's half a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? Like, that's a good prize money race, but he was able to rack up a lot of prize money in places and good prize money races.
It's won 2 races and it's earned 280k, and it's been contesting maidens for half its life. So it's a consistent type. It'll handle the wet if it gets wet. Mickey D's having a good season, and it's the right kind of barrier, I think, where if they're just off the fence and they're not on the fence, then it'll be positioned handy enough to just make that run a couple of horses off the leader's heels. And it had too much for Russian Dancer as well last time, and that's the sort of form line that I want to follow for this. I couldn't really get excited about Running By, because I think Running By is just a bone dry, good 3 Western Australia type horse.
Fair enough. And we're going to get a really wet track or heavy track on Saturday. It's going to be torrential rain at some point, and that's later in the card. But Reece, are you looking anywhere?
No, probably not. I'm still getting over running by. He was one of my bets in the Bendigo Guineas. Flew home, just missed. What are we talking? SP $10. I think when I tipped it was about 17. There might have been a couple of scratchings in that. So tough sort of race to dissect. Belair's been up a long time, but does have the right form lines. I'm not going to get too invested in here. I'm just happy to watch these go around, to be honest.
Fair enough. Reece, well, this is the feature race on the card. It's the $1 million showdown over 1,200 metres, and this is a race I've actually quite enjoyed over the last couple of years. It's the 5th running. It was won last year by King's Consort. Winners have come from barriers 6, 13, 7 and 7. So there's obviously a trend there between 6 and 7. Reece, this is actually a really good race as a trainer. You'd probably want to target if you've got a Vobis horse.
Yeah, particularly it's just great because it helps you support the Victorian bred horses at the sales. You buy these horses and you know that that group's going to be the only horses that can go for $1 million 2-year-old race, which is outstanding prize money. I mean, if this was an open $1 million 2-year-old race, half these wouldn't get a run because there'd be horses from Sydney and everywhere. So this is a great concept, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. This whole meeting, to be fair. There's so many form lines coming from so many different places. I'm probably not going to get invested backing-wise. I'm going to lay She's All Shenanigans, a favourite. Got away with cheap sectionals out of the chute at Bendigo and ran away with what I don't think was an overly strong Gold Rush. The time on the clock wasn't outstanding either. She's got to go up to 1,200. Happy to take her on. I think there's going to be a higher pressure race, and who knows, maybe Lakeside might be leaders early, but I think if the rain does come, they're probably going to get away from the fence, and she's going to be up on speed. I'd probably rather back something that might run on, but there's so many form lines here that it's hard to dissect it all in a 2-year-old race where a few of these are probably having to throw at the stumps, and a couple of them, like Butch Cassidy's in the market, got beat 20 lengths last start, so happy to avoid the race, to be honest.
Tom Haylock always says he likes looking at different form lines. So, I mean, that's an interesting one. Some punters might look at that.
Probably helps if you're looking for some value, for sure.
He likes looking at himself at different angles in the mirror too.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Hamburger Haylock.
Rawls, you're looking towards a couple here, Critique and Butch Cassidy.
Yeah, I like the two gay bot leader types. I think they can take on and pester
She's All
Shenanigans out of it. I think She's All Shenanigans is a bit of a control freak leader type. And if they can stir her up, cross from out wide, put a bit of pressure on, both of them have already been, asked to do that up in Sydney. Obviously, Critique did it on the Kenzo, and it didn't exactly work out, and sort of tied up late, but went to Ballarat next time, going the Melbourne way, and led all the way and won. So a similar type of run here would be competitive, and I can forgive Butch Cassidy on the bog track over 1,400, stepping down from Group 1 size produce. Or these days, depends if you think Sydney's still the A-grade form after what they've served up the last couple of weeks.
Well, the Victorian form has been going quite well. Like we've seen the All-Star Mile and everything. It's probably turned on its head a little bit. But yeah, looking forward to the Showdown. That's a race I'm going to stay out of at this stage, but I think the Betfair Exchange and Betfair Live is going to be crucial. Watching the markets.
I'm going to look silly here, aren't I?
No, I'm definitely happy to lay She's All Shenanigans.
I actually do like one here.
Yeah, talk to us.
Treasure Way.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I must have missed it on the look through. Treasure Way. So 4 runs on good tracks, so that you would think that was query. It had an early jump out at Mornington where it looked like it actually handled it well, and then there's a Geelong trial where it beat Extreme Threat, and I think Extreme Threat ran a place in one of the Blue Diamond preludes. At Sandown. Wide draw probably looks a concern now, but if they are getting away from the fence, probably going to be suitable. 16-1. Form behind Bossy Nick. Was Bossy Nick the horse that went to Sydney of McAvoy's last week and didn't run too bad? Yeah, that's right. So that form held up there. The start before was behind Princess Duhallow, who is well in the market in a stakes race in Adelaide. And I just think at that type of price in an open race, I'm happy to invest each way there.
Yeah, nice one. Well, I'll be following in Reece there and watching Treasure Way. Obviously, big odds on the exchange. But that's all the race previews done. We're going to head to Take On Me. Linton Chataway's filling in this week, and he did a Take On Me last week, and he took on the great Anamoe and got up. Who's he taking on this week?
G'day punters, I'm keen to take one on nice and early on Saturday in the first at Randwick, the James Cummings trained Pericles. I've got my doubts that this horse can run a strong 2,000 metres. He's had 3 attempts at the trip for no wins. I feel like Osipenko comes through a much stronger form line in the Doncaster Mile, and I think he's the one to beat. So I'm offering 1,500 at 2.7 on the fair. Feel free to take me on. Thank you.
Linton Chataway is taking on Hercules, as Reece likes to say, Pericles.
It works.
Maybe
Flindell's been wrong this whole time.
What do you think about that, Reece?
Yeah, I'd be with him. I'd back him in.
He's with him, Ross?
Yep.
You with him?
I'm Osipenko, so I'm happy to go that way. He's laying both.
So
that's it.
We're all in the right corner there. Hopefully it doesn't win, or we're all in strife.
Ancient Greek term for cat.
There you go.
Well, that's the beauty of the Betfair Exchange. If you don't agree with Linton, you can take him on the Betfair Exchange. All right, let's get to our best back and lays. We'll start with you, Roars. Your best back of the weekend.
Yeah, Magic Time. I think just a simple wins. I might even throw it in some doubles with some other horses and try and.
Do you think she'll start shorter than $1.90, $2? Would you?
Yeah,
you'd
so.
be surprised if you.
I think there might be a little
day.
point where you get like 210, 220, and then everyone will just sweep. Yeah.
Well, keep an eye out for that. Reece?
My best bet is Northern Barrage. I just think he's going to be... It's a bad race, no doubt about it, but I think he's superior stayer. Mick Dion, I really like that. And we're getting 220. That's going to be my best. And best lay is She's All Shenanigans for the reasons I've just outlined. Probably too much pressure. Rory said she's a control freak. I agree with that. There's going to be 2 Adrian Bott leaders that are going to be up there, and I think it's going to be a run-on race, so I was happy to lay her.
And you don't think it's going to get wet enough for Militarise?
Yeah, but yeah. Best lay in Melbourne's probably She's All Shenanigans, and best lay in Sydney is Militarise.
I like that. I'd go with that too. I think they're our best 2 lays, to be fair.
Well, I don't have a best back or lay per se. I'll let the form analysts, the experts, talk about it, but...
Hamburger Haylock.
Lay Hamburger Haylock, Tom Laylock. The one I'll be keen to watch is Giga Kick. I reckon the stat 5 winners, 5 or 7 winners out of the TJs is the key one.
Good to see Willow back in form too.
Great to see Willow back in form, and I think 1,400 metres shouldn't be an issue for Giga Kick. That's all we've got time for on the latest edition of Layback with Betfair. Tom Haylock or Nick Foot will be back in this seat next week, but it's been an absolute pleasure taking you through a couple of big meetings at Sandown and Randwick. Have a good weekend. See you guys. Have a good weekend and gamble responsibly.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.